So in this latest video looking at algebra and writing expressions from words, we'll be focusing on more exam style questions. Now, a word of advice before watching this video is make sure that you've watched the first video and fully understand the 3 rules of algebra and also know the difference between an expression and a formula. And I will include a video link to these videos in the description below. Now, unfortunately, there aren't many notes that you can make when writing expressions from words. The only thing I can kind of take into consideration is make sure that you understand the 3 rules of algebra. So when you're multiplying, you don't use the multiplication symbol. When you're multiplying a number with a letter, the number goes first. And when you're dividing, try and use fractions rather than division symbol. And then it's all about reading the questions carefully. Now, if you're not sure about the algebra, a recommendation I always make is, although it takes a little bit longer to get the final answer, is try and put numbers in front of the letters that are involved in the particular question. Hopefully it should make it a little bit easier as to what it is you need to do. And again, if that absolutely makes no sense to you at all, do not worry. When I go through these series of questions, and there will be quite a few, then hopefully it will make sense. Now, again, I just briefly mentioned there, we are going to go through quite a lot of examples, and hopefully with the questions that you're working with, you'll find one that you think, right, do you know what, this is quite similar to one that I didn't really understand, and now I know what to do. So let's get started then. So the first question we're dealing with here, it says write an expression for the cost in pence of X pencils at 35 pence each. Now, there are a couple of keywords in this particular question. Now, the first one is the fact that we're talking about an expression. Now, this could easily be replaced with the word formula, in which I'll write down what both of those two things are going to be. The other notable thing to notice in this particular question is that it's wanting me to use the unit of pence. So now here it's asking me to work out the total cost of X pencils at 35 pence each. So if I had 1 pencil, then that would be 35 pence. If I had 2 pencils, then that would be 75 pence. If I had 3 pencils, then that would be 105 pence, or £1.05. But basically, another way of me writing this is that 4 pencils will cost 4 times 35. 5 pencils would cost 5 times 35. 10 pencils would cost 10 times 35. So X pencils would cost X times 35. So here I've got X times 35, which would then give me 35x as my final answer. Now, if the question asked me to work out a formula, so the formula would be where I've got to have one letter the subject and I've got more than one letter, that would be C, which represents the cost, equals 35x, and the cost would be in pence. Now, if the question asked me to work in pounds rather than pence, then all I would do is swap the 35 pence to 0.35. So then the cost in pounds would be 0.35x. Now, if a question doesn't specify the units, then you can really choose which one you want to go for. But I always say it's always good practice if you state what the units are going to be if you are writing it as a formula. So again, the main differences between writing as a formula is you've got a letter in front of the actual expression. But as this question just involved writing an expression, then writing your answer as 35x, and at a stretch I would say that they should really also expect you to write x times 35, but again, you want to kind of abide by the 3 rules of algebra and write your final answer as 35x. So moving on to the next question, it says that a cream cake costs X pence. Chocolate cake costs 50 pence more than a cream cake. Write down in terms of X the cost of 1 chocolate cake. So again, thinking about this, it's important that we read the question carefully. So a cream cake costs X pence and the chocolate cake costs 50 pence more. So again, as I always say, if you think about it in terms of swapping the letters and ignoring the algebra, so we've got a cream cake and we've got a chocolate cake. And I'm just going to write this here. Oh, let's try and not write over the actual content. So here we know that this is going to cost 50 pence more than whatever the cream cake costs. So if the cream cake costs £1, then the chocolate cake would cost £1.50. If this cost £2, then this would be £2.50. If this was £3, then this would be £3.50. So what it is you're actually doing so whatever this number is, all I'm doing is adding 50 pence, and it will give me what the cost of a chocolate cake is. So if this is going to be X, then this here would be X plus 50 pence. Now, you need to be careful when you're doing these algebra questions, because obviously here P represents the pence, but it could mean something else. So when it comes to this particular and writing the answer to this particular question, so chocolate cake, the cost would be X plus 50, or I could write it as X plus 0.50 if I wanted it in pounds. Now, personally speaking, which of these two answers would you go for? Well, I would generally go for the pence version, simply because the actual units I've used in this doesn't mention pounds, it just mentions pence. So I would go for that. But again, it's a bit of a dodgy question. They should really write down what units they want you to write on. But writing your answer of either of those two would be absolutely fine. Now, just to extend this particular question, and let me just get rid of this answer. Let's say the question asked you to write down the formula of the cost of a chocolate cake and a cream cake. So write down an expression for the price in, let's say, we'll go for pence, of a cream cake and a chocolate cake. Again, this is just an extension question. So going back to our table, we know that a cream cake will cost X, then a chocolate cake would cost X plus 50. And what I want to do is to work out the cost of a cream cake and a chocolate cake, all I need to do is add these two amounts up. So here it would be X plus 50, and then I can join the two X's together to make it as 2X plus 50, and that would be the expression of the cost in pence of one cream and chocolate cake. And again, we'll come back to questions like this in the video. So now looking at this question, again, this question is very, very popular when it comes to this particular topic. So it says here that Alistair is 3 years older than Simon, and Simon is now X years old. Write down Alistair's age in terms of X. Now, as I said, one of the most difficult things about this particular topic is the wording of these questions. So it's really, really important that you gauge an understanding about what the information is telling you in the question. So here we've got two people, which again, I'm just going to write A and I'm going to write S. Now, from the wording of the question, you need to ask yourself which person is older. So it says here that Alistair is 3 years older than Simon. So Alistair is plus 3 years. So, for example, if Simon was 10, then Alistair would be 13. If Simon was 20, Alistair would be 23. If he was 50, then Alistair would be 53. So what we need to do is basically to get from this number to this number, what I'm doing is I'm adding 3. And if I was going from Alistair's age to Simon's age, then I would be doing the opposite, in which I'd be taking away 3. Now in the question it says that Simon is now X years old. So under Simon's column, I'm going to write X. So to work out then what Alistair's age is, again, all I need to do here to get from Simon to Alistair. So again, I've got A to S. Oh, don't know why I wrote 3 there. Let's get rid of that. Oh. There we go. So to get from Alistair to Simon, I'm taking away 3. To get from Simon to Alistair, I'm adding 3. So here, if this is X, I need to add 3. So this would be X plus 3. So therefore, Alistair's age in terms of X is going to be X plus 3. So in this question, it says that a large can of beans costs X pence. A small can costs 6 pence less than a large can of beans. Write down in terms of X the cost of a small can of beans. So reading the question carefully, and again trying to put some numbers into the words, try and get some idea of this. We've got small can and we've got a large can. Now again, if a small can costs, let's say 10 pence, then a large can, well, if it's 6 pence less, is going to cost 6 pence more, so that's going to be 16 pence. If this was, let's say, 20 pence, then the large can is going to cost 26 pence. So from looking at the numbers, to go from small to large, I need to add 6 pence, and then to go in the opposite direction, get from large to small, I've got to take away 6 pence. Now the question tells me, it says that the large can of beans costs X pence. So the X is going to go here. So, and this is what I want to work out. So I'm going in this direction. So therefore it's going to be X minus 6. And again, it's asking me in terms of pence, which I'm guessing that it's going to be. So that there is my final answer. Again, if you were to write it in terms of pounds, you could write X equals 0.06. And that again is the cost of a small can of beans. However, you don't need to write what I've written here because it's actually asked for an expression. However, if you were to write it, I don't think they would knock any marks, but it would automatically turn it into a formula rather than an expression. So moving on to the next one, this one comes to more problem solving. So it says work out an expression in terms of x for the perimeter of this rectangle, give your answer in the simplest form, work out an expression in terms of x, the area of the rectangle, and again, so it's kind of two parts. So to work out the perimeter, it's basically all the sides added together. So again, if I'm working out the perimeter, I'm going to have a starting point and I'm going to go sort of clockwise and add up all of these values. So the perimeter is going to be 3x plus 2x plus 3x plus 2x. And again, if I simplify that, I've got 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, which gives me 10x. And there is my final answer. Now to work out the area of a rectangle, there I just need to multiply both the length and the height of the rectangle. So the area is going to be 3x multiplied, well, let's just change that x to a more algebraic x. I've got 3x being multiplied by 2x. So when you're multiplying, you've got multiply numbers with numbers, letter with letter. So I've got 3 times 2, which is 6, and then x times x, which is x squared. And there are my two final answers. Now, again, in terms of this, it does say give your answer in its simplest form. So if I was to write my final answer as this, then I would lose a mark. And the same thing applies to writing my area as 3x times 2x. So to get full marks, I need to make sure that I am simplifying it. So moving on to the next question, it says write as simply as possible an expression for the perimeter of this shape. So again, very, very similar to the previous one. So I'm going to pick a starting point. So here that the P equals, as perimeter, it's going to be A plus B plus 2A plus B. And then from this, I'm just counting the A's. So I've got 1A plus 2A, which is 3A. And I've got B plus B, which is 2B. And there is my final answer. Now, again, I know I'm going to keep repeating myself, but this plus P, if I wanted to write it as a formula, then I would write P equals. But because the question is just asking me for the expression, then all I need to do is just write 3A plus 2B. If you were to write P equals, I don't know, there is a chance that you could lose a mark because it's turned an expression into a formula, but I personally think it would be pretty harsh. So the next thing we move on to is looking at this one. So it says this square-based cuboid framework is made up from using rods of length A and B. Work out the total length of the rods needed to make this framework. Write your answer as simply as possible. So first of all, let's have a look at all the rods that are going to be A. So let me just highlight that in blue. So that's A, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in total I've got 8 A's. And then let's count the B's. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be plus 4B. And there is my final answer. Now again, it does say simplify your answer, and you could get there straight away. Generally speaking, I would say it would be worth 2 marks. You get 1 mark for simplifying each of these. If you did go on to write just a plus 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 b plus b plus b plus b, you would lose a mark simply because although that is correct, it does specify in the question to give your answer as simply as possible. So moving on to the next question. So again, very similar. It says that here is a framework made from rods. The rectangular base is made up using rods of lengths 2x plus 2x and y. The sloping rods are each of the length of 3z. Work out the total length of the rods needed to make this framework and write your answer as simply as possible. So again, looking at this, so if you look at the y's, so I've got 1y like so that's going to be 2y's. Then counting the x's, I've got 2x. Let's use a different colour because it stands out a little bit. So here I've got 2x and I've got 2x, so that's plus 2x. Well, actually, let's start by writing it in long term. So I've got y plus y, then I've got plus 2x plus 2x, and then with regards to the z's, I've got 3z plus another 3z plus another 3z plus another 3z. Now if you're wondering why I'm putting lines through my z's, it's only to stop me from thinking that they're 2's, so that's the reason why. So joining all of these up, what have I got? Well, I've got 2y. Now generally speaking, you tend to write these in alphabetical order, so but again, you won't lose any marks if you didn't do that. So looking at the x's, I've got 2x plus 2x, which is 4x. Looking at the y's, I've got 2y. And collectively looking at my z's, I've got 12z. And there is my final answer. But again, if you were to write your answer as 2y plus 4x plus 12z, that should be, then again you wouldn't lose any marks, or you shouldn't lose any marks if your letters are in a different order. As long as you've got the same number in front of each of those letters and they are the correct sign, then you should get full marks for them. But obviously try to write it alphabetically. So moving on to the next question, it says that an orange costs 20 pence and a pear costs 12 pence. Write down an expression in pence of the total cost of x oranges and y pears. So again, this kind of resembles kind of what I was going through in the very first question of this video. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we're reading the questions carefully. So it says that an orange costs 20 pence and a pear costs 12 pence. And we need to write down an expression, not a formula, and we're writing it in pence of the total cost of x oranges and y pears. Now, so for this, if we think about it, if I'm looking at the oranges, so if I buy 1 orange, then that's going to be 1 times 20. 2 oranges would be 2 times 20. 3 oranges would be 3 times 20. 10 oranges would be 10 times 20. And 100 oranges would be 100 times 20. So therefore, X number of oranges would cost X times 20, which simplifies to be 20x. Now if I look at pears, we've got a green, yeah we have. So 1 pear would cost 1 times 12. 2 pears would cost 2 times 12. 3 pears would cost 3 times 12. 10 pears would cost 10 times 12. 1,000 pears would cost 1,000 times 12. So a y number of pears would cost y times 12, which simplifies to give me 12y. So writing my expression of the total cost of x oranges and y pears, well that answer is going to be, so my final answer is going to be that the cost equals, and it's going to be x oranges, which is this amount, so that's the cost of however many oranges I'm buying, plus the number of pears, which is 12y. So this here would be my final answer. So moving on to the next one, it says the cooking time for a piece of beef is 40 minutes for each kilogram plus an extra 25 minutes. Write down an expression for the cooking time in minutes for a piece of beef that weighs W grams. So again, reading this or breaking this question in terms of picking out the key bits of information. So it's 40 minutes for each kilogram, and we need to add on 25 minutes. So if I had 1 kilogram, then what that would cost, how long it would take, I should say rather, is going to be 40 times 1 plus 25. If I had 2 kilograms, then that would be 40 times 2 plus 25. If I had 10 kilograms, then that would be 40 times 10 plus 25. If I had 100 kilograms, then that would be 40 times 100 plus 25. But here it says that I've got W kilograms. So if this was W, then all I'm going to do is swap this number or these set of numbers for W. So here what I've got then is I've got 40 times W plus 25. Now, using the rules of algebra, what I need to do is now write this more algebraically. Because although that is correct, the key thing with regards to the rules of algebra is I need to simplify this. So think to yourself, how do I write 40 times W? Well, I write it as 40W plus 25. And there is my final answer. Now again, it's just worth double checking that we do want it in minutes. It's asked me for an expression. If the question asked you for a formula, then what you would say is give cooking time, I would say a letter, so I could say C, and it would be 40W plus 25, and C would be in minutes. And there would be our formula if it did ask me, but this question didn't ask me for a formula, it asked me for an expression, so that there would be my final answer. Now looking at this question, it says bananas cost X pence each. I buy 6 bananas and pay with a £5 note. Write down in terms of X how much change I should get, or I will get I should say. Give your answer in terms of pence. Right, so in terms of pence, then what we need to realise is that £5 is going to be 500 pence. So we're going to change 500, or £5 I should say, equals 500 pence. So rather than using 5, I'm going to use 500 instead. Now it says that I buy 6 bananas. Well, 6 bananas and a banana costs X pence. So the price of a banana is going to be X. So then 6 bananas is going to be 6X. So working out the change, well, let's say if 6 bananas cost £1.20, my change would be £5 minus whatever this costs, so it'd be £1.20. Now I know that the cost is 6x, so that's going to be 6x. I know that £5 in pence is 500, so the actual answer for this particular question is going to be 500 minus 6x. And again, just breaking this down, so that is my final answer. But breaking this up into sections, this is the £5 note, and this, the 6x, is the cost of 6 bananas. Done. So moving on to the next question. So it says the box contains 6 bottles of wine. 1 bottle of wine weighs W kilograms. A box weighs 1 kilogram less than a bottle of wine, or 1 bottle of wine I should say. Show that the total weight in kilograms of 2 boxes each with 6 bottles of wine is 14W minus 2. So first things first, let's have a look at the components of this particular question here. So a box of wine, so 6 bottles of wine. Well, if 1 bottle weighs W grams, then the weight is going to be 6W. Now, the box, it says, weighs 1 kilogram less than a bottle of wine. Well, so the weight of a box, Well, so for example, if a wine weighs, let's say, 3 kilograms, then a box will weigh 2 kilograms. If the bottle of wine weighs 5 kilograms, then the box will weigh 4 kilograms. So if it weighs 10 kilograms, which would be a very, very big bottle of wine, then the box will weigh 9 kilograms. Now here we know that the wine weighs W grams, so then the box, and what do I need to do from this number to get to this number? Well, I take away 1. So that means that if this is W, then this is going to be W minus 1. Now from this, so now I know that one bottle of wine costs W, a box weighs W minus 1, I can now go on to work out an expression for this scenario. So going back, and I'll leave this on the screen just so it makes a bit of sense. So here I've got 6 bottles of wine and 1 box. So here 6 bottles is going to be 6W plus 1 box is going to be W minus 1. Now that's 1 box, but I've also got another box which has also got 6 bottles and 1 box. So again, I've got 6W plus W minus 1. Now collecting these things together, so that's 1 box, that's another box. So joining these up, I've got 6W plus W minus 1 plus 6W plus W minus 1. And joining these together, I've got counting the W's, I've got 6 plus 1 plus 6 plus 1, which is 14W. And I've got, looking at the numbers, I've got minus 1 and a minus 1, so it's minus 2. And therefore, I have showed that 2 boxes, each with 6 bottles of wine, is going to weigh 14W minus 2 kilograms. Now, one piece of advice that I would say is, although we always, as maths teachers, always encourage you to make sure you write your units, when you are writing expressions, there is an exception of you including units. You've got to make sure that your units aren't going to be used as letters or variables, as we say in terms of algebra. So just be mindful of the units and making sure that they're not part of your expression. So for example, if you're using kg, make sure that the letter K and the G don't actually refer to anything in the question. So just be mindful of that. But generally speaking, a final answer to this particular question is just 14W minus 2.